Is off for the G7 summit in Italy. He will reach around 2:30 a.m. on Friday morning, and he will be representing Bharat participating for the 11th time, and the PM himself for the 5th time. He will be meeting the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and there are other bilateral scheduled, although no conversations with Justin Trudeau. Climate change, environment, and of course the effort to help developing nations tops the agenda at this G7 summit. Bharat's retail closer home. Meanwhile, the retail inflation is eased to a 12-month low of 4.75% in May on an annual basis, down to 4.83% in April, according to the government data released on Wednesday. And this figure is lower than what most economists had actually predicted. With this, the retail inflation has remained within the RBI's target range of 2 to 6% since September 2023. The PLI scheme is also expected to attract investments of 3 to 4 lakh crore in the next 4 years and generate about 2 lakh jobs, as large projects in sectors including semiconductor, solar module and pharmaceutical intermediaries are expected to take off. And this is what a top executive of ICRA has said. ICRA Executive Vice President and Chief Ratings Officer K. Ravichandran has said that going ahead, private sector capex is expected to pick up in oil and gas, metals and mining, hospitals, healthcare and the cement sectors. Meanwhile, signaling the era of continuity, the government has reappointed Ajit Doval as the National Security Advisor, along with continuing the jobs and responsibilities of those within the PMO. Additionally, Dr. P.K. Mishra was also reappointed as the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and their appointments, which came into effect from June 10th, will be coterminous with the term of the Prime Minister until further orders. So till the time Prime Minister remains, the PMO officials remain, and of course Ajit Doval continues. And talking about security, ladies and gentlemen, and the challenges thereof, let's try and understand what's going to happen. Now, on Wednesday evening, what we brought to you here on the right stand was the link between what's happening in Reasi, Kathua, Doda, the resurgence or trying to effort to reignite terrorist activities on Indian soil by Pakistan, this proxy war. And we drew that connection with the LAC, saying there is a need to try and ease the pressure that Bharat's forces have built on the PLA, and so that they can continue with their aggression there and force some redeployment across Jammu and Kashmir. But there is a bigger play here. There is a Beijing blueprint. The money for the Pakistanis, they don't have money. They're a bankrupt nation right now. They're going around with a begging bowl. So where is this money coming from for them to be able to foment this terror on Indian soil? We get you those details courtesy our Group Editor Security Manoj Kumar Gupta, who's telling us that there is a significant meeting that happened. A security setup to compel India to move its troops from LAC to Jammu. We got you that details. Now let's get you this Beijing blueprint. And this is details accessed exclusively by CNN News 18, and we're breaking it here on the right stand. First up, CNN News 18 has exclusively accessed the Beijing blueprint, and according to intel sources to CNN News 18, the Kashmir plot was reignited, and there was perhaps an indication to try and further go ahead and stir the pot, and this was during Shehbaz Sharif's visit to China. In the meeting, China asked Pakistan to dare India, continue to prod. China asked Pakistan to use the China-Pak economic corridor to challenge India. And more exclusive details that are coming in. Now, as per intel sources, China is actually bankrolling Pakistan's proxy war. The economy jihad plot, that's what's been accessed by CNN News 18. Pak is redirecting CPEC security funds. Pakistan is now using Chinese yuan to carry out jihad against Bharat, this entire proxy war. And how? Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's statement on Tuesday. Recent 5-day visit to China remained successful. High-powered Chinese delegation to Pakistan soon. Visit was a great opportunity to strengthen ties. Security issues highlighted in the meeting. Swift and successful execution of second phase of the China-Pak-China economic corridor. These were the top lines that were stated. But here's the reading between the lines. There has been funds, and what Pakistan has gone ahead and said that no progress in the CPEC corridors and certain regions in Pakistan are because of India's meddling. That's what they've gone and said. and there has been a decadal dependence on funds. Either it's the US dollars and now it's the Chinese yuan. And what they have gone and sold to Beijing is that it is India that is disrupting CPEC work. Terror outfits bankrolled by Bharat are disrupting CPEC work, and that's why we can't provide you security. You give us money and we will provide you security. The cover fire given to Jaish-e-Mohammed is because the Jaish-e-Mohammed jihadis are the ones who are the mercenaries guarding that entire CPEC corridor construction, not the Pakistani army. So that's another open secret. And that's the reason why the Jaish-e-Mohammed and also Masood Azhar got so much of cover fire at the UN Security Council 1267 from China's veto. Because they were coming in handy, giving this foot soldiers and people to guard that and doing that duty. Now Pakistan says India is disrupting it. Earlier, Pakistan was telling the US, listen, you give us the dollars and we will help you. And they were redirecting the dollars towards Bharat's proxy war, and US turning a blind eye to that. Now, Beijing is the one bankrolling the yuan on the guise of security funds, and it's being redirected once again towards Bharat. Tuin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP with us, Sushant Sareen, senior fellow ORF with us, Aina Tangen, political affairs commentator also with us. Namaste to everybody. Thank you very, very much. We've got more details, but first up, Sushant Sareen, this is a big challenge. Now, if China is now going to bankroll the CPEC, already billions of dollars have been pumped in there. Not much has happened. That $48 billion road, only 2 kilometers of it has been built. About $5 billion spent already. More yuan coming in via security funds, and that money being redirected here. How do we tackle this?
So Anand, this nexus between these two countries is not a new thing for us. It's been there since the early 60s. And in the recent years, it's actually this nexus has, further strengthened. The only thing which ties both these countries together is their mutual hostility and enmity towards India. The Chinese are no better than the Pakistanis when it comes to, their hatred for India, and it's very visible in virtually every sphere of activity. That is one. So there is nothing new in this. Number two, what is new is that I think the Chinese also understand that Pakistan, as far as economy is concerned, is a tough deal. The CPEC has failed. It's collapsed completely. It's not working. The Chinese projects are making massive losses. The Pakistanis can't pay back money. The Pakistanis are going, every 3 months with a begging bowl in their hands. I think even the Chinese are sick of putting money in that begging bowl. But the strategic level relationship remains very much intact because of the first factor I told you, which is their mutual enmity towards India. That's the only glue which ties them. Otherwise, culturally, there's nothing in common. They don't speak the same language. There's absolutely nothing in common. And the Chinese, apart from whatever strategic value Pakistan is a dog snapping at India's heel. That's the only purpose it serves for the Chinese. And, to some extent, it's probably the only friend they have because they don't have too many friends, especially because of their behavior. So this is where this problem is. And frankly, I'm not surprised the fact that Shahbaz Sharif made the visit at the time when the new Indian government was, being sworn in, or at least the election results had come out. And there was going to be a closer coordination as far as security matters related to India is concerned. But I think a lot of Shahbaz Sharif's message he's trying to put a positive spin within his own country that I'm coming back with a lot of goodies from China. The Chinese really haven't given him much money, certainly not of the kind he was expecting. Maybe they do it later, we don't know. But there's nothing in the joint statement which suggests that there's any big manna from heaven or from the Middle Kingdom coming to the Pakistanis. Nothing of the sort, except for one or two strategic projects which are of more of interest to the Chinese than they are to Pakistan. But other than that, at best, maybe the Chinese are going to roll over their loans. But whatever new monies will come in the strategic domain. For example, there's some talk of, some more fighter jets being given to Pakistan, some other defense equipment being given. And I'm not entirely surprised that there is a wink and a nudge that you ramp up terrorism in Jammu so that some of the troops that had been relocated to the northern frontiers with China,
exactly,
it creates a bit of a problem for the Indians. It's not going to take much, to refill those gaps that have been created. Uh, but I think that is the direction in which we are headed. But I think at the same time, Anand, we have to recognize that it's a dangerous situation which is developing along both our western and our northern borders. And I think we cannot afford to be sanguine that just because Pakistan is bankrupt, they are not going to, enter into some kind of a fray with India.
Right.
I think, in fact, precisely because they are bankrupt, to show that they are still alive and kicking, they'll try and pull something funny. They did it in Kargil. In Kargil, they were virtually bankrupt.
Right.
They had about $1 billion in their foreign exchange reserves, and yet they indulge in this kind of military adventurism. So don't put it past them, and I think we need to be on eternal vigil against both these enemy countries.
Well, there is a huge amount of unaccounted for cash that is doing the rounds in Pakistan. Currently, Pakistan is being propped up by this entire black economy that's fueled by narcotics, that's fueled by hard cash, and that's not accounted for money. But Aina Tangin, will the CCP be okay for Pakistan to do what it did with America? That is, redirect funds towards a proxy war that they want to wage with India.
Well, Anand, you're asking a question that has a fact that is not in evidence. Obviously, China and Pakistan have had difficulties, especially security, also meeting deadlines when it comes to projects. The CPEC is definitely a very, very complex project. There are things that Pakistan still has to do. But China's not a fool, neither is the United States. I understand that my colleague doesn't seem to like anybody. Everyone's an enemy. But the fact is that China does not regard India as an enemy. It is not the first topic on conversation. It is really about the U.S. And the attempts of the U.S. to use India as an enemy. And this is what China would like to avoid. The proxy wars that we see in both Israel and also Ukraine are not something that I think anybody wants coming to Asia. So at this point, I think with Jaishankar saying that he would like to engage with the Chinese on border issues, I think this is an opening rather than trying to just air out all the old grievances which aren't going anywhere.
Well, 62, China invaded India. 9 years later, it bankrolled the 1971 war chest for the Pakistanis at that time. It also provided its own planes, although that air force and that entire fleet was rendered inadequate or not able to perform on its whatever its role it was supposed to do. So these are all chronicled information that China has been meddling,
that's chronicled
in
information
India,
you like
with India,
to
with,
assert,
with
but
India
the fact
and
is
backed
the
Pakistan.
Chinese see it differently. So if you want to litigate the past, and you want to use an India-centric narrative
let's take the
versus a
recent part.
Chinese-centric, I don't think you're
1267
going
UN
anywhere.
Security Council, why would China block the Masood Azhar case and also Jaish-e-Mohammed?
Yeah.
Unless it was at the behest of
They saw it
Pakistan.
as political, and I know that this is not something that India has ever done. Just recently, they were saying that India puts its own interests first. I don't know why it objects to other countries doing what they think is in the best interest of their countries. At this point, you can quote all the past, hasn't been good, or you can try to look to a better future. So, if you think that the success of these two countries is based on deepening rifts, that's up to you.
My question, that's why I started with this question, Aina Tangin, before I bring in Tuinsana, that will China be okay with the money that it's actually giving Pakistan to secure the CPEC, finding it getting rediverted towards reactivating, terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir?
I mean, you're asking a ridiculous question. Of course they wouldn't be okay with it. That hasn't happened yet, unless you have some proof that no one else has. You like to throw in as fact what is in fact conjecture. There's a difference. If you're a lawyer and you're going into a courtroom, the judge would tell you to lay a foundation before you try to enter something into evidence. So right now, if they were to do that, of course, China would cut off the funds. They're not interested in bankrolling somebody who's corrupt. There is corruption everywhere, including India. But China, it just takes a dim view of it. They take a dim view of it in their own country, as you can well see. They actually prosecute people for stealing money from the state or from the people. Not something that happens much elsewhere.
A few kilometers have been constructed of the 800-kilometer motorway from Gwadar to Ratode. $5 billion out of this $48 billion project has already been spent. The $46 billion project. 800 kilometers of motorway, not even about 10 kilometers has been built, and the cost attached to it is $5 billion already. So, which heads are rolling in Pakistan is a question. Yes, Beijing has pulled up Pakistan on these lapses, but now it seems to be saying, Pakistan seems to have convinced Beijing, oh, we've not done anything, it's all being done by India. To Insina, you see the situation building around us.
I don't think that's something that Beijing believes. They believe that Pakistan made assurances that it could protect Chinese workers. These are mostly engineers who were working on this project. And if they don't come through with that, it doesn't matter. Chinese engineers will be pulled.
So that's the confirmation now that there is money that's been released in terms of security funds, where Pakistan has said, give us money to... So that's the information that we have. Let me just bring in the BJP spokesperson with us, Tuhin Sinha. Yes, Tuhin, thank you for your patience. Now, how would you read this situation and what should be India's response here?
Well, Namaste, Anand. In the last decade or so, there is no doubt that Pakistan has reduced itself to being a colony of China, thanks to China's insidious debt diplomacy and Pakistan's complete lack of self-respect. India, under Prime Minister Modi, has not only been cognizant of the joint threats from both of them, but also acted with a lot of promptness, with a lot of alacrity, and that is one of the reasons why the threats stand subverted, or the threats stand nullified to a very large extent. But yes, given the fact that Shehbaz Sharif had visited China recently, there is a spurt of terrorist activity in the last 4 days. It makes us all the more vigilant. If I may just quickly take you through some of the steps, both militarily and diplomatically, whether it is the formation of Quad, whether it is, the India, Middle East, European corridor, or whether it is the slew of PLI schemes in India, all of these are designed in a way to reduce China's economic heft across the globe. Sadly, we have, a leader like Rahul Gandhi, who on the eve of India, Middle East, European corridor being announced, was in Europe singing praises of one belt, one road. But anyway, when it comes to Pakistan, again from 2016, start of 2016 onwards, which is, the Pathankot incident, of a Pathankot terrorist attack, we have been very consistent in reducing Pakistan's heft globally, whether that was getting them grey-listed by FATF twice, or whether it was Pakistan's reducing Pakistan's heft even within the Islamic world with our strategic forays and business interests with Saudi Arabia. So we are completely cognizant of the threat. We are, constantly acting against it, and rest assured, we will be completely equipped to handle it.
Are you convinced, Sushant Sareen?
Convinced of what?
That India is going to be equipped to handle this situation right now that's brewing?
We have no choice. We have to do it because it's a matter of national security. So I think we'll pull out all the plugs to make sure that, we have whatever we require along these borders. But I think it's very important to recognize that, Mr. Tangent is entitled to his views, and he can feel offended that if China is called an enemy country. But I'm very curious to know what is a good friendly act that the Chinese have done, at least in the last 10 years or the last 20 years. In fact, just recently, just a couple of weeks back, Anand, we've got to know that the Chinese have actually been doubling down, in fact, actually going haywire in propagating and promoting Khalistani propaganda and inciting violence in India. These are Chinese who are behind this entire project. That's not the act of a friendly country. You mentioned about the Jaish-e-Mohammed. I wonder if Mr. Tangent and his country, or whichever country he belongs to nowadays, will ever give a visa to somebody like a Jaish-e-Mohammed guy. Are these the kind of people they will invite inside China? And yet, when it comes to banning these people and internationally proscribing terrorism, the Chinese actually play fiddle until they're literally with their backs to the wall, and then they feel that there's a lot of shame going to be attached, and that is when they back off. But even otherwise, if you look at everything else that the Chinese have done, whether it is disturbing the borders along eastern Ladakh, the way they have been behaving on other platforms against India, those are not actions of a friendly country. And as far as the use of proxies are concerned, for the Chinese to claim that they are not the ones who use proxies, I mean, okay, fine, you can say whatever you want to say, but it's not easy for the rest of the world to accept that because it clearly does not, it doesn't stack up to what is happening on the ground. So I really don't agree with what Mr. Tangent is saying, but I would caution Tuhin and his party that it's good to be confident, it's good to be well prepared, but it's very important to make sure that you've covered all the various angles which you might have to confront when you're dealing with two very perfidious neighbors. So I would strongly recommend that.
Tuhin Sinha?
Well, Mr. Sareen's caution is well appreciated. But like I said, whether it is on the military front, whether it is standing up to the dragon in Doklam, Galwan, or Tawang, or whether it is the PLI schemes which have begun to yield results. And by the way, the semiconductor manufacturing push is the way the world is looking at China plus one policy. All of these are going to reduce China's economic heft globally, and the economic heft and political clout are related together. So I think there is a larger plan definitely in place, and it's a matter of time before the results of that plan are more visible to the world.
See, but you would also appreciate that China is so far ahead of us economically that we'll have to grow at least 12% per annum over the next 10 years to get close to where China is. So as an economic heft, China has. So let's always not underestimate what the adversary has or what the entity who we want to measure up against already enjoys. The other aspect, sir, is
Anand, we don't have a middle kingdom complex. We don't want to rule the world. We don't want to make oceans into our personal lakes. We don't want to do all of that. We want security and prosperity for our people. We want a world in which everybody can live in peace like good neighbors. We don't have those complexes which the Chinese have, whether you call them inferiority complex or whatever other complex. We don't have that. That's not our worldview. That's not how we look at people. We look at other people.
I'm purely on the economics aspect of it. The economic aspect of it.
We have no intention of invading China. We have no intention of occupying any Chinese territory. We are in a defensive posture, and in a defensive posture, you don't need what you need as in an offensive posture. And if the Chinese were to get offensive, then we have adequate preparations to handle that.
Where I am coming from is not just the economic heft that we have to live up to. We have multiple challenges because our biggest borders are undefined and we are exposed to Chinese occupied territory. We share our borders with Tibet and Nepal, sir. We don't share it with China. But large parts of Tibet are all Chinese occupied territory. They are the PLA is squatting there right now, and they have been trying to salami slice and make ingress. If they don't do something in Ladakh, they will do something in Arunachal, because that's how widespread is, and we've not got that resolution. And that's something which they will brutally use because they believe in comprehensive national power. We know all of this. Yes, Tuhin Sinha.
Anand, I'm glad you're raising these issues, because that is where the multi-pronged approach of this government becomes very important. Point is that in the last 10 years, we have come a long way, but yes, a lot more needs to be done, which we are equally, abreast of. The point is, in February 2014, we had the UPA Defence Minister justify the non-construction of infrastructure in areas like Arunachal by saying that if we do that, that would enrage China. And today, look at the quantum of infrastructure creation which has been done in the border areas. In fact, the vibrant village policy makes the border, the villages at the border, the first pillars of development. So all of these are meant to reiterate, to reassert that India's sovereignty is non-negotiable. Then, of course, comes the economic aspect. Then comes the international diplomacy aspect. So I think it's a deft, multi-pronged approach which we have been working on, and we will only
in
raise
all
the bar
humility, in all humility, unless we are very honest with where we are and what we do, we will not be able to work towards where we want to be. The fact is that in Ningchi, which is directly in line with Arunachal Pradesh, there is a bullet train that now the Chinese have built a railway track along with the 295 road that goes all the way till there. We are just constructing roads. So we have to work, if we want to secure our borders, at 10 times the pace of the PLA to catch up with them in the next 5 to 7 years or a decade. That's what I am trying to say, that they will continue to disrupt us. And this is something that we should take cognizance of, because we get caught up in the minutiae. Our fight is not with Pakistan, which, like Mr. Sareen said, is nothing but a canine snapping at our heels. But it's with the larger behemoth on this front, which is using that front and that vassal to try and continue to irritate us. And unless we secure this area and we resolve this, this will continue to spread our forces, to spread our fight and our resources. That's what I'm trying to say, that this is a broad game of chess, and we are fighting with people who are already grandmasters at it. So Pragnananda may be getting the better of Ding Liren of late, but are we, as Bharat, getting the better of the CCP and the PLA? That's the larger question that I'm asking. And the other thing, Mr. Tangian, I'm asking you, that you say that China doesn't look at India as an adversary. But all the aspects or all the moves against India have been hostile. Renaming of Arunachal, trying to continue to push. Again, this push and this entire occupancy of heights and trying to of territory along the LAC, continuing to stall on the border talks. All of these don't show talks about any aspect of friendliness or how you would behave with a nation that you look at as a friend.
Well, the friendliness hasn't been there, that's for certainly. Obviously, India's joining with the Quad in basically a alliance against China. That doesn't speak to friendliness either. Both sides have, in fact, named it. Now, in response to my colleague, if he wants to make me the issue, that's fine. I was asked on this show to, as an independent commentator, to give my impression of what Beijing is thinking. If he doesn't like it, I understand. But I don't think necessarily making me the issue is going to make it go away. You can certainly criticize his own government about their stance on foreign policy. But at the heart of this is you have two civilizations, China and India. They know better. They've lived through centuries and centuries, eons, thousands of years, understanding just how difficult it is to make peace and how easy it is to make war, but how important it is to have better possibilities for your people. So I think that they can come to some sort of resolution. I like what you said, Anand, about exactly where you are, but I don't agree that building up more infrastructure on disputed areas is necessarily going to solve this. I think it takes diplomacy. And hopefully that will be the way that this is resolved in the end.
But that is possible when the situation is like to like. When you have two nations who are not expansionist in design, who do not covet the other territory. But for China, it's the other way, sir. For China, it's always attack and squat. Enter and squat, enter and squat, and keep pushing through, and then play the long game as far as diplomacy is concerned, where eventually that area continues to be yours. So the design from the PLA and the CCP, as long as they follow Mao's blueprint, it is the palm and five fingers, and they will covet territory that does not belong to them. So that is Tibet, and also sovereign states or sovereign territory that belongs to India and some of the other nations in this neighborhood. And that's the sad part. That you can, one nation wants to push through its expansion.
Opposite. They see it as India, salami slicing their way. They believe that the 62 war was caused by India. As I say, we can.
No, but
can
Mr. Tangian, the facts are evident on ground who's sitting on whose territory. And if you go back to treaties even as recent as 1914, who signed that treaty? Who signed that treaty? And there was no PLA then. There was no CCP then. So I'm just saying that there is a historic background, but there is an attitudinal present too. The attitudinal present is not saying that, okay, let's go back and
that they did withdraw in 62. They had a lot of extra territory. They could have kept on marching in. They didn't. They withdrew.
That's also because
Right?
of the. That's also because of the
Because
Great
of
Famine,
what?
and there are
Because
other
you were winning?
geopolitical
No.
factors that force the pushback. So there are other reasons. So that's another discourse for another time. Because
But I'm
facts,
saying that it
facts
won't solve
stated,
the
facts
present.
stated economically can also present a very economical version of the truth. So let's try and look at all facets. I'll park it for now. But this is something that we all need to be cognizant of, that what Pakistan's machinations are, because that's the pest, that's the irritant that needs to be dealt with immediately. And then, of course, the long game is on the borders or the LAC, which needs to be very clearly defined. Thank you very much, Mr. Tangen. Tuin Sinha stays on with us. Sushant Sarin, thank you very much for your inputs. Quickly, ladies and gentlemen, before we bring in and we set up debate number 2, where we focus on what's happening in Maharashtra and internal dynamics there, updates on 2 fronts. First, the NEET showdown has escalated, impacting 24 lakh students. Now, let's have a look at this entire controversy and what the Supreme Court's interim order, because the hearing continues on, the next hearing is on the 8th of July, what it says. The politics, centers, defense, and what's next. First up, the controversy. 67 candidates achieving 720 out of 720 score, near perfect scores, and that raised the big alarm bells. And scores via one exam center, 6 of them got these perfect scores from one exam center. Paper solvers were seen, not paper leaks, but paper solvers, to 41 NEET UG medical aspirants, and they were arrested. So this was Farjiwala that was happening, like in Munna Bhai. So somebody else going to write your exam under your own assumed name. The petitions alleged mass paper leak in Patna examination centers, although the government has not confirmed that yet. They have sought a conduct of a retest and called it unsatisfactory, arbitrary results. Now, meanwhile, by the NTA. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court in its interim order has said that the scores of 1,563 students who had got grace marks, they stand cancelled. The grace marks stand cancelled. The grace marks stand cancelled. So the scores minus the grace marks stand. The students now have the option, these 1,563 students have the option of taking a retest on the 23rd of June, or stay with the scores, old scores without grace, and go on for the counselling, which will not be stopped. The results for these 1,563 students, if they take the test, all of them take the retest, will be announced on the 30th of June, thereafter which the process of counselling continues. That's not going to be stopped. Meanwhile, the opposition is saying there is rigging, there is corruption, there is exam leak in the NEET exam. They somewhere are trying to create a center of fear-mongering, or perhaps a scenario that the entire NEET exam is compromised and 24 lakh students and their futures are in jeopardy. The government says that's not the case. They're asking the center to scrap NEET. Now, this is something that's coming in from within the India Alliance, from the Tamil Nadu lobby, the DMK, which has continued to say that we don't want NEET, they want to boycott NEET, but more and more students from Tamil Nadu have been taking the NEET exams and benefiting from it. There should be a CBI probe. That's what Mr. Kharge has said, the Congress president. Meanwhile, Centre is saying there's no information on paper leak. There is unnecessary politics on the issue. The Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, taking to X and responding to Mr. Kharge point by point, saying academic experts are part of the panel, and they've said that they've got laws in place. People who misuse, the law will crack down on them and there will be hard action taken. What happens next? 1,563 students can go for this retest. Option is 23rd June. Results will be on the 30th. If students don't opt for the retest score, then grace score without the grace will be counted and they can go for the counselling. The larger issue, ladies and gentlemen, has been on the fact that the number of students who have got high rates, and that's why the cutoff numbers have really gone up. So students last year who qualified, this year the same students with similar scores are nowhere in the reckoning to get seats. The Education Minister replying to Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge on Platform X, and he said, and I'm quoting, in the NEET exam case, NTA is committed to take appropriate action by following the instructions of the Honorable Supreme Court. And as per the instructions of the Honorable Supreme Court, the examination of 1,563 students will be conducted again. No concrete evidence of any kind of rigging, corruption or paper leak has been found so far in the NEET exam. All the facts related to this are before the Honorable Supreme Court and are under consideration. I want to remind the Congress party that to prevent paper leak and to conduct a cheating-free exam, the central government has passed the Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act this year, which has many strict provisions. Congress should not be under the misconception that if any nexus is found, no action will be taken against it. The provisions of this act will be implemented very carefully. That's where NEET issue stands as of now, ladies and gentlemen, and let's hope that justice is done to the students and there is confidence that is restored in the entire process of conducting these large-scale exams, perhaps the biggest in the world. Let's change tack and get to you another big detail. The government has been formed in Odisha, the BJP winning big in the Lok Sabha and as well as sweeping the assembly elections, decimating the Biju Janata Dal that ruled the state for almost a quarter of a century. Now, in its electoral promise, the BJP had said it will open all the 4 gates of Mahaprabhu Puri Jagannath temple for devotees once it came to power, and it has done so. At his first cabinet meeting, Chief Minister Mohan Majhi has cited the inconvenience caused to devotees by shutting off the 4 doors. He's also announced a 500 crore temple beautification repair. Let's have a look at the significance of these 4 doors. Why is it so important? These 4 doors, ladies and gentlemen, symbolify the 4 pillars of Purushartha: Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Singhadwara, which is the 2-line statues, symbolizes Moksha. That means that's named after Narsimha Avatar, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. The devotees will get moksha if he or she enters through this gate. That's the thought process. The Ashwadwara or the horse represents Kama or lust. So those who enter through this door give up lust or Kama, and that's why they move towards gaining glory. Horses, riding these horses with Mahaprabhu Jagannath, with Balabhadra, this is towards martial glory. And that's where the devotee sacrifices lust while entering through this gate, also known as the road to victory. Kings entered the temple via this gate to seek blessings to win battles. Then you have the Vyagadwara or the tiger door, Tiger Dwar. Tiger is a symbol of dharma, one's own self, righteousness. The important philosophy in Hindu faith, way of life, reminds the devotee about his or her dharma, bolsters devotee spirit. Sages, special devotees enter through this gate. And then you have the Artha or the Hasti Dwara, the colossal figure of elephants on each side, symbolizes the carriage of goddess Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi. Again, so that's Artha, wealth. And devotees seeking wealth enter the temple through this gate. Now, 3 of these doors were closed during COVID and thereafter remained closed. Now they're all being opened. There are many other facets and aspects of the Puri Jagannath temple that make it fascinating, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll park that for another day. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, what's happening in Maharashtra? Rumblings within both the sides, the Aghadi and the UT, more within the UT, especially after what an RSS thinker has said in the RSS mouthpiece, the organizer, along with what's happening within the NCP Ajit Pawar ranks, Eknath Shinde ranks. Plenty to talk about when we come back. Stay with us.
Yet to be established because many bodies are charred beyond recognition. So the DNA tests are being done, and in few hours or maybe in a couple of days, when the establishment of the identity will happen, the bodies will be handed over to the respective family members. Indian Air Force plane is on a standby to bring that mortal remains of all the deceased back home once the identification is established. Prime Minister has announced a 2 lakh rupees ex gratia for all the dead in the incidents from Prime Minister Relief Fund. The Kuwaiti government has also swung into action. They have arrested the owner of the building and few more people who were managing the building. And the entire episode of this fire tragedy is being probed. It is being believed that many gas cylinders were stored in the ground floor from where the fire actually started, and very soon it engulfed the entire building, which was multi-floored. The incident happened early hours of morning, so many of the workers were asleep and they could not save themselves. The local authorities quickly responded to the fire reported by some of the people, locals, and then they doused the fire, but it took several hours, and by then dozens of people were already dead. Officials are also probing other building or other premises which are housing laborers in such poor conditions, and they are also trying to audit buildings across the country and working conditions of laborers also, including from India. The poor working conditions of laborers in Gulf countries have been an issue in the past also, and Indian government has tried to raise the issue at multiple times at multiple levels with the respective government also. The Indian government also provides a scheme, an insurance scheme, and that is Pravasi Bharati Bima Yojana, and that kinds of help all those blue collar workers who go to these countries for job or some employment opportunities. The PBY offers a range of benefits such as medical coverages of up to 1 lakh rupees for injured, sickness, ailments or disease with a cap of about 50,000 rupees per hospitalization. It also provides a generous insurance cover of about 10 lakh rupees in case of accidental death or premature disability, and also it covers the reimbursement of return economy class airfare for one attendant in the case of an ailment or accident, death or permanent disability. Also, PBBY also offers family hospitalization in India for up to 50,000 rupees for spouses and the first two children up to 21 years of age, and then there are other medical benefits also. So while Indian government has been doing its own part to
Back on, ladies and gentlemen, with the spotlight turned on Maharashtra, one of the biggest losers in Lok Sabha 2024 as a political party in terms of ground, vote share, seats, etc. was the BJP. And now, an article published in the organizer, mouthpiece of the RSS, that's what it's portrayed to be, says that the BJP lost because they onboarded Ajit Pawar and the NCP breakaway faction. On the other hand, there is also thought process that Eknath Shinde, although he held ground, not very happy with the way things are running within the NDA. So what's happening? And there is a buoyant Sharad Pawar who's saying, 3.5 mahine baad aayenge to hum hi, aayega to agadi hi. So what's going on? And is all well within the UT? Let's ask this question to Tuhin Sinha, Arun Anand, Avinash Adik and Mahesh Tapase with us. Namaste to everybody. Thank you very much. Is all well, Mr. Adik? There are a lot of rumblings post the NDA, post Lok Sabha. And I know Sunitra Pawarji has just filed her nomination for the Rajya Sabha, so wishing her all the best. But there was a lot of talk about what happened in Baramati also, saying that the Shiv Sena BJP votes didn't transfer.
Well, thank you for that. Let's first face the facts as they are. We did not do well in the Lok Sabha, so there's no debating that. There's no arguing that. We did not do well, and we are not blaming anybody for it. On the other hand, if there is an article which has come about in a magazine which is originating from the RSS, we shall definitely study it, go through the finer points of what they are saying in the article, correct whatever needs to be corrected. We believe in democracy, so the freedom of right to express, freedom of right to write your articles are taken very properly by us, positively by us. We shall introspect, make the corrections that are required of us. And at the same time, you just said that Pawar Sahib has said that aayenge to hum hi. So, you know, this 400 par ka slogan went against us, the NDA this time. So I hope what Pawar Sahib is saying right now goes against them, and come assembly time, as has been historically seen in Maharashtra, when the Lok Sabha verdict comes out, it is seldom repeated in the assembly elections. Even the last time, the NDA had won 41 seats, we had won just 7 because we were part of the UPA. But come assembly time, that was not the scene. If you go by the numbers of the 2019 assembly elections, and if something similar happens, because Maharashtra is known to do that, they vote differently for the Lok Sabha, Maharashtra votes differently for the Vidhan Sabha. I'm very confident that when Vidhan Sabha comes, the Mahayuti, which looks a little in disarray, which is not a fact, that is what all political commentators would like to believe, is not a fact. We'll regroup ourselves, we'll have corrected whatever wrongs we had committed, and we'll come back as a strong Mahayuti.
Tuhin Sinha, coming to in just a bit. Arun Anand, your thought process, do you agree with what Ratan Shardaji has written in the organizer? Or do you believe there is a different truth to Maharashtra and what happened on ground?
First, let me come to this question of Ratan Sharda's point of view. He is also a very close friend. So, that bias is there. But one, see, RSS does not have a mouthpiece, and RSS has categorically stated it time and again. Anybody can go to the internet and search it. Second, yes, just like there are similar-minded organizations in various fields. So in journalism, they have not only Panchjanya and organizers, but they also have Tarun Bharat and Swadesh. Now, if you read the editorial by Swadesh, so it's diametrically opposite. So then you would say, you know, there's a difference of opinion within RSS. Ratan Sharda has written that in individual capacity. Ratan Sharda has got no responsibility within RSS, and Ratan Sharda has got no responsibility within BJP. So that's his individual viewpoint, which has been published in a similar-minded organization. That is not the way RSS is looking at it. The RSS has left politics to BJP. Otherwise, and RSS is not like a school principal, and BJP is not like a school student that every time BJP, you know, is not able to perform well, so RSS will reprimand it. So that is not the kind of relationship they have. They have an organic relationship. Will come. That's a different debate. But coming to Maharashtra, see, Maharashtra, ever since Ajit Pawar came to join this alliance, so there was discomfort within BJP also. As far as making a government with Eknath Shinde is concerned, there was not any discomfort. But after Ajit Pawar came, there was discomfort, and this discomfort has demoralized some of the BJP cadres also. Until and unless BJP resolves this Ajit Pawar issue, I think there is a challenge for them in terms of mobilizing their voters, because I have no qualms in saying that Ajit Pawar has been in the past the face of, you know, corruption in Maharashtra. And when a party which is saying that your party with a difference, and there was no need to bring him, the government was going on there smoothly. So people are not able to understand that why it was done. So there is a discomfort. They have to resolve this question first. But yes, BJP has the capability to bounce back, and they have all, if they can bounce back from 2 in 1984, you know, the current situation where they're running a third term. So BJP has that advantage that they're pretty flexible. They are not revolving around an individual. And when it comes to elections, so, and Maharashtra has a galaxy of BJP leaders working at the grassroots level. The only thing is that they have to mobilize, and they have to, you know, kind of up the morale of the cadres. And unless there is all the Ajit Pawar issue, it is not going to happen.
Tuhin Sinha.
Well, namaste, Anand. Definitely the results in Maharashtra have come as a surprise. And for a party like BJP, which takes every setback seriously, we have an inbuilt mechanism within the party which is already stock taking, which is already reviewing what went wrong, and we will be up with a course correction very soon. You know, like Ratanji is a senior, so I don't want to comment on the article. Everybody is entitled to his opinion. There was a thought process which had gone behind this alliance that we had. You know, there were 3 people who were responsible for subverting the mandate in 2019. Rahul Gandhi, Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray. And they had to be isolated. That was the thought process which had gone behind forging this alliance. Besides, obviously, both Devendra Fadnavis ji and Eknath Shinde ji are extremely pro-development, pro-Vikas, and that is seen in the way infrastructure projects which were lying dormant for the 2.5 years that Uddhav Thackeray was in power have been immediately revived. But yes, there are certain things which seem to have gone wrong. You know, there is a theory that the lies and the falsehoods spread by the Congress party about us meaning to change the constitution actually, you know, drew a traction with. And since the NCP, spokesperson is here, let me ask him very directly: which article in the constitution says that we need 400 seats or 400 members of parliament to change the constitution? Can he answer that?
So you're saying it's the narrative that hurt, and it's not the formations or the combinations that were formed or the partnerships that were formed. That's your point of view, and that there can be synergy that can be worked, even though that Mr. Ajit Pawar, taking no effort or capability away from him, he's a phenomenal administrator, and he's the one who's actually run the NCP under the guidance of Mr. Sharad Pawar in the past, and there's no taking that away from him. But ideologically, he's a different tent pole. Just like it was when Uddhav Thackeray decided to join with NCP and with the Congress, it was seen that it's an ideological variation. There will be no synergy. But on ground, we saw votes translating. The Congress and the NCP votes transferred in entirety to the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray party. And that's where the allegation is that that's how they won in Mumbai. Eknath Shinde is on record to say that the core Shiv Sena voter, about 17 to 18% of the 17% of the core Shiv Sena voter out of 20% voted for the Shiv Sena under his leadership. How the Uddhav Thackeray team won was because of this entire vote transfer that happened from the NCP and the Congress, which surprised many. So that synergy has been achieved in the Aghadi. Will that come forth in the Yuti is a question. Mr. Mahesh Tapase, thank you for your patience. Your thought process, sir, and then we'll go back to Mr. Adik.
Yeah, good evening, Anandji and all panelists. I must appreciate my friend Adik ji for his very candid expression and candid admission of what has happened. And I'm happy that he's still not got all from his friend Tuhin, who's sitting just right next to him on the scene. But let me tell you, it was probably not the BJP, probably not the RSS which wanted the NCP faction to be broken into two parts and get Ajit Pawar on to their side. It was only and only Mr. Devendra Fadnavis who said that he has a ambition to be the largest or the biggest leader in the state of Maharashtra, irrespective of which party he belongs, whether it's Sharad Pawar, whether it's Vasant Dada, or anybody for that matter, whether it's Balasaheb Thackeray. So here Devendra Fadnavis ji has a vision to be known as the biggest leader. Despite the Shinde-Fadnavis government having the magic number, they had the majority in Maharashtra. They were in government in Maharashtra, but it was only at the instance of Devendra Fadnavis ji that NCP was broken into two parts. Rather than sending Ajit Pawar chakki piecing, he gave him a seat next to him. And this is exactly what has been stated. Our friend, the columnist friend Arun Anand has just mentioned the right thing, that BJP probably never wanted it. They are ideological difference. They were the ones, I think just 2 days before the admission of Ajit Pawar, Prime Minister said that naturally corrupt party hai, 70,000 crore ka scam hai, falana. 2 days ke baad, Ajit Pawar is just on the lap of Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, and this is what probably the BJP didn't want, and this is what has come in the organizer. When you have the number, when you are diametrically, ideologically opposite, how can you have? And this is the expression which has been given to me from my friends in the BJP who are also grassroots karyakartas of RSS.
When an Uddhav Thackeray can merge with the Shiv Sena and with the Congress and the NCP, at that time ideological tent poles apart, difference apart is all right. I didn't interrupt you. Let me please humbly make my point. The other thing is, you said Ajit Pawar would have been chakki piecing. So you as a NCP person who all the while said it's a false allegation today are saying that he would have gone to jail. And you are calling him corrupt today. You just said Ajit Pawar would have been chakki piecing and then he gave him a seat next to him. That's what you told.
I said Devendra Fadnavis said that, not me.
The other thing.
Said. I never said Ajit Pawar is corrupt.
Got it. So if Ajit Pawar is not corrupt, so there is nothing wrong with him joining the other thing is, sir, tali do haath se bachti, ek haath se nahi bachti. So even if Devendra Fadnavis wanted, as you are alleging that it was Fadnavis's thing that he wants Ajit Pawar, Ajit Dada Pawar also has to want to come, and a lot of MLAs went along with him. So clearly there was not everything was right within the NCP too. Now, Mr. Adik, how would you want to respond to Mr. Tapase?
I want to just add, Anandji, if you just allow me for one more minute. See, I think there was a pressure which was put. I never said Ajit, we always defended Ajit Dada for whatever actions he has taken. Still I defend him. Still on your channel I said that my friend Avinash Adik has made a very candid admission. I appreciate for his admission of the facts. But Ajit Dada को डराया गया, Ajit Dada के ऊपर प्रेशर डाला. प्राइम मिनिस्टर
अभी भी आप अजीत दादा का साइड ले रहे हैं या फिर उनको बैकहैंडेड तरीके से आप उनको क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं, समझ में नहीं आया. अजीत दादा पवार कैसे डर सकते हैं? अजीत दादा पवार कैसे डर सकते हैं? आप मुझे एक बात बताएं ना, आप ये कह रहे हैं कि अजीत दादा पवार डरपोक है महेश तपासे. आर यू सपोर्टिंग हिम और आर यू एक्चुअली मॉकिंग हिम और आर यू डरा गया और वो डर गए. डराया गया तो डर गए. शरद पवार को भी डरा गया तो शरद पवार जी डरे नहीं डरे.
तो सामने गए भिड़ने के लिए.
No, Mr. Adik. Okay, I've got limited time. I think Mr. Adik deserves a response. Yeah, go ahead.
Anandji, just on the 10th of June, we celebrated the 25 years of our foundation of the party. We had a function in Mumbai, and Mahesh and his group had a similar function in Ahmednagar. In that function, a very senior leader, a very intelligent leader of that party, made a speech in which he gave 4 instances with dates, where he said that Sharad Pawar Sahab had said we are going to join hands with the BJP, and every single time that he made that statement within the party, he asked Ajit Dada and senior leaders to backtrack from it. What happened subsequently in 22 was everybody was tired of this going to and fro.
Right.
Because the BJP constantly felt that you were in dialogue with us. You keep talking about development as the issue on which you want to join hands. We believed that the Prime Minister was the most popular leader of the country. And to continue our agenda of development, we need to shake hands with him.
Okay, Avinash
Now,
Adhik, I have
again, you sent us
beg
for
your pardon,
discussions
I
with
have
the
run
Prime
out of
Minister.
time, but I'll park it here with a comma. And we'll take this forward because it's a big challenge in Maharashtra. It's not yet over there, ladies and gentlemen. 3.5 months and the countdown's begun. Thank you for watching The Right Stand. Stay with us. Brass Tacks follows.
Co-powered by
medical assistance and relief to these workers going abroad, because they are also one of the largest center of remittances to various states and families that not only support their own families but also contribute significantly in the overall GDP of our country. So while billions of dollars come every year from these diaspora community to their families, Indian government has always found responsibility to take care of their working condition and the way they are treated abroad. These workers who are now dead, they were apparently working in some oil field and near oil field in Kuwait, and the reason why this fire tragedy happened is still being probed. The number of deaths can go up. It is still now about 42 people. Establishment of identity of many of the deceased are still trying to ascertain, because many of them are charred beyond recognition. DNA sampling is being done, and once it is established, many of them will be handed over to their respective family, and Air India plane is on standby to bring back all those mortal remains. MOS Kirtivardhan Singh is on way to Kuwait, where he will be overseeing the entire operation. A massive fire tragedy in Kuwait has killed more than 40 Indian workers who were housed in a multi-story building. About 160 workers were living there. Almost 40 or more than 40 have been reported dead. More than 30 are attending medical services, and several of them are in critical condition. So unfortunately, the number of deaths could go up from here. Indian government has swung into action. Indian embassy in Kuwait has been providing all the medical aid and assistances to all those critically injured. Prime Minister Modi has reviewed the entire situation. Yesterday, the meeting was held at PMO, where External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra, and also the Minister of State for External Affairs Kirtivardhan Singh was also present. Now MOS Kirtivardhan Singh has also flown to Kuwait, where he will not only oversee the entire operation but also assess the situation on the ground, working conditions of the laborers, and what can be done to ensure those who are critically injured they get best medical services. Now also the situation back in home is very painful. We have reported that more than 11 people from the deceased are from Kerala, and then some are also from Tamil Nadu and other northern states. The identity of many of the deceased are yet to be established, because many bodies are charred beyond recognition. So the DNA tests are being done, and in few hours or maybe in a couple of days, when the establishment of the identity will happen, the bodies will be handed over to the respective family members. Indian Air Force plane is on a standby to bring that mortal remains of all the deceased back home once the identification is established. Prime Minister has announced.
This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
It has been an incredible journey, ladies and gentlemen, for the last 2 years, culminating in what was result day number 1. On counting day 2024, June the 4th, CNN News 18, your channel, was the #1 English news channel in the country. We had 41% of the entire English news universe tuning into this channel. The nearest competitor was almost at half. Thank you very much to all our viewers here on CNN News 18 for joining us as you have these past 2 years, and particularly on counting day, which was a momentous news day by all standards. But first, let's now look at what's been happening. The big story that we are tracking tonight: the NEET exam has run into a quagmire after about 1,500 students were given grace marks
they've now been asked by the Supreme Court to take a retest. This will have to be done on the 23rd of this month. The NEET counselling for everyone else will continue as usual, but those students who are not part of this 1,536 are protesting. They're saying that they're getting the short end of the stick. Their contention is that the entire system is corrupt and that they are being penalized for being honest. So how can the government fix this mess that has come to pass in various competitive exams, not just NEET? We've seen different competitive exams having paper leaks, etc. And now this whole business of grace marks. How can this whole issue of competitive exams and the colossal incompetence that we're seeing there, how can it be fixed?